Since I'll be attending BronyCon for the first time in a few weeks, I figured I'd better do some more MLP related content. Most of you will already know how much I adore this show. It still baffles me how much I still do, and I'm sure it just confuses my friends and family to no end. It's on its 7th season, and though both it and the fandom have changed a lot since I got into it, I have a lot of reasons to be thankful to it. I consider the show and the fandom to be the vehicle that got me to where I am today in my career as an artist. Though I will keep saying that MLP is simply just another show I like, it does get more attention than other shows and movies do, because without it, I doubt I'd even be doing this YouTube thing. So, in anticipation of BronyCon 2017 and my first time ever in the US, I decided to do a special review on my favourite episode. I am regularly asked what my favourite episode is, and I have to be honest, I'm kind of surprised how many people don't already know what it is by now. If you've watched my channel for a while, you'll probably already know that my favourite character from the show is Pinkie Pie. Why? Well, I did make a video called Why Pinkie Pie's Best Pony back in 2013, and although my opinions of the character remain the same, please don't watch the video. The visuals are so bad, it's embarrassing. Oh, well, okay, go watch it, but don't say I didn't warn you, okay? Episodes where Pinkie Pie is the focus tend to stretch the rules of the visual bible of the show, sometimes even break the rules entirely. The goofy cartoonish antics are left to Pinkie Pie for the majority of the time, that is until Discord came along in Season 2. Pinkie breaks the fourth wall on a regular basis and has far more variation in expressions than any other character. She allowed the show to have surreal and playful moments, giving homages to classic animated shows from the 50s, including Chuck Jones cartoons, as well as referencing other shows from Hasbro now and then. She's not the comic relief of the show exactly, but she is responsible for the majority of the visual humour. She does represent the element of laughter after all, but as happy and energetic as this little ball of crazy is, there is also a disturbing side. She doesn't exactly read social situations very well and has no sense of tact whatsoever, meaning she can be insensitive without realising it and come off as annoying. However, in saying that, Pinkie Pie is also the most authentic character in the show, at least to me, and can pick up when others are not being real with her. This can cause her to become incredibly paranoid, resulting in her worrying that none of her friends actually really accept her or even like her. But because she's unable to change who she is due to her authenticity, she instead has an emotional breakdown in one of the most disturbing visuals I have seen in animation for a while. Nothing much has topped this since then, at least nothing with a G rating anyway. The only other episode I think comes close to this level of disturbia is Lesson 0, which by the way was what got me curious about MLP in the first place. When I think of my favourite episodes from MLP, or any show for that matter, my mind tends to go toward episodes that deal with characters having some kind of nervous breakdown or internal conflict. When we see a character break, we see a vulnerability there that makes them far more relatable. Internal conflicts appeal to me far more than two or more characters having an all-out brawl. Good versus evil to me is portrayed best when it's just one character fighting their own personal demons. When this happens in an animated show or movie, this can be portrayed in a visual way that can have more impact than just a character's expressions and emotions changing suddenly. Sometimes it's just shown in a costume change or in a physical transformation. In this case, we see Pinkie Pie literally deflate. It may seem a little sadistic of me to enjoy seeing characters have psychological breakdowns, but visually, it's just so fascinating to see. She deflates just like a burst balloon, thematically fitting since she is known as the party pony. There's now a sense of despair. How can the element of laughter allow herself to be sad? What could possibly be done now to make Pinkie Pie exuberant again? Let's take a look at my favourite episode from MLP, Party of One. The episode begins with Pinkie Pie delivering invitations to each of the main 6 while also singing a song to each one, changing costumes and props for each of her friends she sings to. This is another thing I love about Pinkie Pie. She treats her friends with a consistent level of joy while also approaching them in various different ways that shows how well she knows and loves each of her friends. The party is to celebrate Gummy's birthday. Yeah, Pinkie has a pet alligator. She has awesome taste in pets. And the look on her friends' faces of pure what? Is just hilarious to me. After the party, which was pretty boisterous for some of the main 6, I guess Pinkie Pie is more of a mosh pit kind of girl than her friends are. Pinkie Pie still has a lot of energy and doesn't want the party to end, and tries to convince Twilight to stay longer. Instead, Twilight goes home but says that they should do this again soon. And in Pinkie Pie's head, soon means the very next day. So she invites her friends to another party. But one by one, they give her reasons about not being able or available to go, and Pinkie goes to extreme measures, including referencing Groucho Marx, to find out why her friends can't go to her party. She comes to the conclusion pretty quickly that they were giving her excuses of not wanting to go to her party, and starts to worry they were lying to her just to get out of it. What makes her suspicions even more concrete are the awkward lies and faces that Applejack pulls. This little exchange here, by the way, is simply, well, it kind of makes the whole episode, if I'm honest. Pinkie Pie decides she needs proof and interrogates Spike, intimidating him to the point that he'll say anything just so he can get the gem she promised him. After her worries are confirmed by Spike, Pinkie Pie breaks down and thinks her friends don't like her and that they don't even want to be her friend at all. Everything we've seen up to this point leads us to sympathise with Pinkie Pie and see how she came to this conclusion, which makes the breakdown, dramatic as it is, all the more relatable. Usually approaching things with a light-hearted, carefree attitude, she is often not taken very seriously, and any crazy antics from her are brushed off because it's Pinkie Pie. Here, to me, this is the first time her crazy antics are actually disturbing to her friends and the audience. And we start to take her seriously. In her despair, Pinkie Pie has the party anyway, surrounding herself with a pile of rocks, a pile of dust bunnies, a bag of flour, and a bucket of turnips, puppeteering them to move and talk. The visuals here are pretty unnerving to say the least, and we get quick shocks and twitches from Pinkie Pie, showing that something is very, very off with this scene. Then her inner demons begin to speak to her through the friends, quote-unquote, she's made, and she convinces herself that the main six are not her friends at all, and that she shouldn't speak to them again. Pinkie is taking her friend's apparent avoidance of her to a manic degree. She never does anything half-heartedly. She pours her heart and soul into her friendships. So she feels like all of this is not being reciprocated, so understandably she would become emotionally unstable. This is the first episode to feature Pinkie Pie's popular alter ego, Pinkamena. Although it is basically just Pinkie Pie with her hair down and, a little crazier, most bronies and fans like to think of her as a whole different personality to Pinkie Pie. It has spawned fan fictions and fan animations that go down the creepypasta route, which I tend to avoid because I think they take things to the extreme and paint very real disorders in a very unrealistic light. I wouldn't go as far as to depict this as the beginning of some kind of split personality disorder, even though hallucinations are a primary symptom of such a thing. A mental breakdown, also known as a nervous breakdown, is an acute time-limited mental disorder that manifests primarily as severe stress-induced depression, anxiety, or dissociation in a previously functional individual, to the extent that they are no longer able to function on a day-to-day basis until the disorder is resolved. Schizophrenia is a mental disorder characterized by abnormal social behavior and failure to understand what is real. Schizophrenia is often confused with split personality or multiple personality disorder conditions. Dissociative identity disorder, or DID, also known as multiple personality disorder, MPD, is a mental disorder characterized by at least two distinct and relatively enduring identities or dissociated personality states. Do I think Pinkie suffers from schizophrenia? Well, this episode certainly does imply the symptoms of a nervous breakdown that can lead to such a thing developing that includes split personality disorder. With the backgrounds being minimalistic and almost juvenile, the sentient friends being oversized and moving on their own, making Pinkie Pie feel small and insignificant, and then snapping back to reality, showing Pinkie Pie puppeteering her friends while in a hallucinogenic state, she is only snapped out of it when Rainbow Dash appears at her door. Feeling bad about having to deceive Pinkie Pie all day, Rainbow Dash apologizes for running off. Pinkie Pie clearly chooses not to forgive her and instead resolves to stay with her real friends, quote-unquote. Pinkie Pie is forcibly removed from her house by Rainbow Dash, who is taking none of her nonsense. She drags Pinkie Pie back to Applejack's barn, where Pinkie thinks they are throwing a farewell party for her because she thinks they're kicking her from the group. It turns out, though, All the excuses her friends were giving her for not being able to go to the party she was planning was because they were busy planning a surprise birthday party for Pinkie Pie herself. Once Pinkie realizes her suspicions and paranoia had no foundations, she returns to normal, but also apologizes for ever doubting her friends. I do think that this episode tackles very real issues that are often glossed over or diminished in other shows. Though the visuals and animation clearly imply something far deeper is being tackled here, the writing seems to just skim the surface of what is really going on. But hey, this is a kids show, and it's an animated show with just 22 minutes runtime. Maybe I'm just asking too much of it. What this episode boils down to really though is Pinkie's biggest fear. This is the fear of being rejected, or making someone else feel rejected. She wants everyone, including herself, to have a feeling of belonging and acceptance. Acceptance is a person's assent to the reality of a situation, recognizing a process or condition. Another definition of acceptance has to do with positive welcome and belonging, favour and endorsement. What is the very first thing that Pinkie Pie does in this show? She throws a party to welcome Twilight Sparkle to Ponyville, so Twilight doesn't feel lonely or isolated or rejected. I think this is why Pinkie Pie is my favourite character and why this is my favourite episode. Everything she does is to combat the very thing she fears: rejection. I may not be as energetic or emotional as Pinkie Pie is. If anything, I'm stoic and stone-faced. But I have a childish and playful side, which I tend to hide, because I worry it would scare people away from me, and it has in the past. I am a passionate person, and can channel this in a very intimidating way. I'm very well aware of this. Pinkie's passion is channeled through happiness and joy. Mine? It's channeled through rage. I see a lot of myself in Pinkie Pie really, even though we are very different in personality. But getting back to the episode here, the party pony forgetting her own birthday is a little far-fetched and very unlikely. I feel that if her friends were just throwing her a party just to say how much they appreciated her, would have worked a bit better and gotten the message across just as well. Overall, this episode is and always will be my favourite episode of MLP, and one of my favourite episodes of any animated show. It wasn't the first episode of My Little Pony I saw, that was a Canterlot Wedding, but it was the episode where I completely fell in love with Pinkie Pie as a character. She's just fun to watch and I can't get enough of her. This episode is one that I rewatch over and over and over and over again. I adore this episode. I'm Mad Munchkin. Stay creative.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to leave a comment below, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. If you liked what you saw and want to see more, go ahead and like and subscribe. If you'd like to show your support and keep this channel going, you can do so by becoming a patron or purchasing some of my artwork from my Etsy shop or my eBay shop. I also live stream regularly on Picarto TV. You can find links to everything in the description below the video. Thanks for watching and see you again soon.